I walked into hell. I walked into the darkest of the dark. It was gang wars, it was murder, it was robbery, it was attacks at night, everything I saw. And I was around other humans that had grown up in the jungle. Humans that you can't even imagine. Powerful beings that are fueled by anger and violence. Humans that have actually murdered other humans. What is that like? Being in that environment. We live together. We're in this jungle together. And I started experiencing bliss. And I was laughing. I started laughing in prison. And I remember being like, wait, I found something. Wait, no matter what they do to me on the outside, I found this place inside that they can't touch. And it's a genuine place of like peace, acceptance, transcendence, transcending what was actually physically happening.
This is the Human Future Podcast, where we explore the intersection of technology and spirituality with some of the world's brightest minds. Together, we paint a vision of the desirable future and discuss the actionable steps to make that vision a reality. And now, without further ado, let's begin. Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel, for being here. What an honor. Last time we spoke or co-created something that was at Sharon Circle at Eric Sheldon's home. That was a beautiful experience that we all had. That was less than a year ago. And that was the first time we've met in person and just met like that. And you've shared your powerful life story, transformational life story, that I think would be amazing to start with that as well, just because it's such a special story that you carry with yourself. So do you mind sharing that in this format as well?
Of course. Yeah. Honor to be here. Great to connect again. So where my spiritual journey began was not in your typical setting, right? Wasn't in a yoga retreat, an ayahuasca retreat. It was 20 years ago in the opposite of all of that, in darkness, in a place of darkness, right? I'd lost my way. I had created a reality where I was living a criminal lifestyle. I was doing things that were, and if right now I look back at them as like, who was that person? I can't even imagine that, right? I was robbing drug dealers, stalking them, tying them up, robbing them. And that was my target. And at 17 years old, 18 years old, I thought, this is the most brilliant idea ever. Look what I can do. I'm so slick, they'll never catch me. They can't call the police. Like, I was meticulous about it, right? And that path ended me up in a place where I found myself actually incarcerated, right? And I was incarcerated for armed robbery. I was sent at the time to, the most feared and the most dangerous facility. When you get arrested, you go through a process where they're processing you and they're deciding where you're going to go. And it's like a lottery and everybody's there in this space. Like, and everybody's like talking like, oh, I hope I get to go here. I hope we don't go here. Right?
It's a lottery.
It's not a lottery. There's a system, but you don't know. They're processing you. They're assessing you.
For you, it's like a lottery.
But for us, we don't have any idea. They're assessing us. They're running tests. They're looking at your criminal record. There's many, many variables and factors, and they're going to decide, but it just feels like a lottery. And I remember just being in that space and that energy. And I didn't know what this place was, but that's where everybody was scared of. And that's where they sent me. And that's where the real journey began, on that bus ride, right? That was the longest bus ride of my life, but it was also like, hey, this is your first moment of walking into the dark, into the unknown. How are you going to face this? And I remember I was like, I'm going to be the first one to get off the bus and I'm going to be the first one to walk in, right? And I'm going to walk in with my head high, right? I had no idea what I was walking into. That was a naive young man. I walked into hell. I walked into the darkest of the dark. I walked into the jungle, right? It was gang wars, it was murder, it was like robbery, it was like attacks at night, it was everything I saw. I was in the jungle, right? And I was around humans, other humans that had grown up in the jungle, that were native to the jungle. Humans that you can't even imagine, right? Powerful beings, but powerful beings that are fueled by anger and violence. Like the violence makes them stronger, right? Humans that have actually murdered other humans, right? There's a lot of people talking about, I'll kill you, real killers. Right. What is that like? Being in that environment, right? Go to sleep every night. We live together. We're in this jungle together. And that showed me the depths of what humans can become and how scary this reality can become. And in that space is when I started going inwards. I realized, hey, there's nobody here to save me. There's no friends. There's nothing. It's just me. It's just me. I can't trust anyone. And I started going in. And I started with the Bible. I found some wisdom in there, but at the time it just wasn't for me. But I went on this journey. I started this journey. I started going through all of it. I started studying Islam, Judaism, like all of the different main primary religions. And then I got into Buddhism. And Buddhism really started to open my eyes to make me see first, wow, look at this reality that you have created. Look at this beyond your imagination, how dark it can get. You are in it now. You created this. Right? Accountability, ownership. But then it started teaching me how to start to control the mind. This was the greatest gift. We can adapt to anything. We can live in the desert. We can live in the mountains, right? We can live under the most extreme conditions. And I realized that I started understanding different layers of what we are, the primal animal being. It's fascinating. Like, I adapted very quickly to the violence, to the suffering, to the physical violence. New senses started to arise, which were interesting. I started to be able to smell. I can smell fear, right? Which was crazy because why? We're in a predatory environment. Everybody's a predator, right? Yeah. And what started to happen is you can put me in a room of 100 people. Everyone looks terrifying. Everyone is trying, but I can smell, wait, this guy may look scared. He's terrified. But I could also smell the other thing. The real predator. Immediately, like your instincts, you can find them. Boom, right there. That one right there, he's not saying anything. This is the most dangerous predator in here. He doesn't look like it. It's an energy, right? I started to really start to understand energy in a raw, primal way, what we are. And Buddhism at the same time. So there's this primal experience happening, right? This primal unfolding, right? Yeah. Of like war, what it's like to fight for your life, like really be locked in a cell and you don't know this person is literally trying to kill you. All of their suffering and their pain is coming out on you. And it's that, right? It's you go to sleep at night and you don't know if you're going to wake up. And sometimes you're attacked and it's this real animalistic thing. But then at the same time, these deeper, very beautiful philosophical teachings that I'm studying, learning how to control the mind, recognizing that I was able to adapt to all of that. I got used to it. I became numb to it. Like I would go to war, like tooth and nail, come back to my bed and just read a book, slow down my breath. I was like nothing happened. So I started working the mind because that's where all of my suffering was. My suffering, what I realized was all the regret, all the mistakes, missing all of the people. What if? I wish I was 19 years old, 20, 21, like all my friends are partying, right? Like living their lives, right? I wanted that, like hearing those stories, having people come visit me. So eventually I reached a point and I recognized that's the main suffering. I'm killing myself.
Out, like that you're missing out.
Missing and suffering, right? So many different things, right? But my story's in my mind. So the first thing I did is I had to stop people from visiting me. And I cut all of that off. That outside world is no longer my world. That's where I was suffering. I'm here now. Be fully here. That was the first step to quiet the suffering. And then the stories in the mind, the patterns, right? You go down these patterns of like, woe is me and all this like depression, and you sink into it, recognizing those patterns, stopping those patterns, right? And I started doing that with the breath, recognizing I can quiet the noise. And I had nothing but time, right? Nothing but time. And then over time, the practice started getting deeper and deeper. And it's beautiful. This unfolding is happening internally when the outside world is the opposite. It was a paradox what was happening. And then finding a place where I started experiencing bliss. That was the crazy. I remember, and I was laughing, and I started laughing in prison. And I remember being like, wait, I found something. Wait, no matter what they do to me on the outside, I found this place inside that they can't touch, right? And it's genuine, like this like place of like peace, acceptance, and yeah, beauty and transcendence, transcending what was actually physically happening. And that was the start of the practice, right? And that's where it started and originated, and it saved my life, right? When it started happening is when I truly decided to turn my whole entire life around, change everything. I recognized every single thing I do, every word that I say, every action is creating my reality. I created hell. I'm going to create something beautiful. I don't know what, but I know I'm going to create something beautiful when I come out, right? And that's where it
yeah. That moment of when the first encounter with how do you call that moment? Like ecstatic moment where you started laughing. Can you tell me a little bit more? Were you like meditating in the evening? Like where
Sure.
were you? How did that go?
So in the space that I was in, the only like tiny piece of joy is sometimes they would let you out to go to the yard, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, and that was very rare. Most of the time, like it wasn't like a regular thing, right? It was very rare. And I would get up and do my practice in the morning. And when I came out, we went to the yard, and I just remember looking around and being in hell, but being like, wait, like the thing I just connected to in there is actually with me here, and I'm okay. And I was smiling, right? I was smiling. It was very odd, like the moment of like, it's not just here when I'm alone. Like I just it's here, and it doesn't matter where I am.
Yeah.
Like what's happening on the outside, right? This outside external space, right, is not defining what's happening inside. Whereas before it was, right? I felt all of the darkness, all of the energy on me. Like it was unbearable, the weight of what's happening in there. Cause it's not just the place. There's an energy to the place. Everyone else is darkness, right? You feel it intensely, right? There's so much suffering in there, right? And that's when I started seeing it all from a different perspective. I was in the same reality, but I could see it different. I could understand it much, much deeper. Why? Because I started to understand myself. I started to go in deeper. So then this external place started to reveal more layers.
Is it the process of you growing some kind of shell and protecting your internal and not just letting any kind of energy to go through it?
For sure. That was part of what was happening unconsciously in that space. You had to do that. You had to create that physical shell and an emotional shell. It required that to survive.
How long were you in prison for?
3 years.
3 years. And how many years in, or how many months in did that start happening?
I'm going to say maybe halfway through approximately. The last year was just all about growth. Then like it changed. I was in there, and I got caught in there. When I went in there, I was young, and I was like, I'm in the jungle now. I'm going to jungle, right? When I first went in. If we're jungling, let's jungle. Let's go in. And I started getting caught up in it. And it's the upside down world. It's there where the more violent you are, the more power you get, and the higher you rise. So I was getting caught. There was gang wars everywhere. I was getting caught in all of this crazy politics and in this massive, like complex system. It's a system just like this system, right?
Right.
And I started smuggling drugs in there and selling drugs in there. Like I was getting lost. I was doing the same thing, right? At a much deeper level, in a much darker place. And then when this started happening, that's when everything started changing, and I realized, and all of it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I started distancing myself out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Extricating myself out of it, recognizing my actions, right? Yep. No longer getting caught up in the momentum, the tide of what was happening. And the tide is powerful there, right?
Right.
You walk in, you have to get into a gang. You have to there's no choice, right? You can't say, hey guys, I opt out of all the violence and everything that's happening. You're in it. It's coming to your door. They're attacking you. You're in it. You're in all of these things. And then starting to pull myself out, recognizing that, right? And then that's where the real inner work began, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like unpacking all of the broken patterns that I had built, right? But it was just the start. It was just the start of something that became like infinitely more profound, right? And that was like 20 years ago, and it got beyond my imagination of what could happen as you continue down this path of introspection when I came out, right? And where I am now is unimaginable, unrecognizable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But also the flip side of it. This is what happened. This is the beautiful part. The paradox, right? Is that I could never have imagined how beautiful this gets. How beautiful this gets. This, being a human, as you go in really letting go of more of the layers and understanding, truly starting to awaken to what we really are and what this really is, and how beautiful and euphoric and orgasmic it becomes, right? I could have never imagined that. I could have never imagined how complex, deep it gets. What I recognized was that had to happen. I needed to, if this is normal baseline reality, I needed to go to the extreme and feel and suffer the darkness, right? Really, truly suffer to the extreme. That tore me open. And at the time, it didn't make any sense. At the time, I couldn't make sense out of it. But I realized that capacity to open now allows me to open this way into the light, right?
Right.
And feel at a much more beautiful level, right? Like, and I think I could feel it more because I've felt this, and I can appreciate it more, right?
Is it about like recognizing the scale of emotions either way, and it's almost like a subconscious belief that's breaking through, that you could be this, the intensity of it, it's commonly said that you can't experience the highest of the highest if you haven't experienced the lowest. Is it about, can you break it down for me?
Sure.
Why can that be? Like,
Sure. Why does it feel like it is, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that I consciously thought of and was trying to do. It's what started to happen. I'll tell you what the other piece of it, the other layer of what that is, right? To answer your question. That, like a psychedelic experience, is a complete ego dissolving experience. Everything, you don't even have a name anymore. You just have a number, right? Everything is taken away from you. Whatever you thought you were, right? All of that. When you're 18, you have a huge ego, right? You remember, you really start to believe all of it obliterated. The world obliterated. What you thought reality was obliterated, right? It's an annihilation of the ego, which is an incredible gift. Incredible gift, right? So that allows you to really start to go in. And that has given me, by being broken open and recognizing it, right? Not a victim story. That was a beautiful thing that happened, because it allowed me to start to become something different. So the process, what I've realized, and it's repeated over and over in my life, there's been many other times where everything that I was is completely dissolved and disappeared and broken, right? Shattered. But through the practice, right? You see the beauty in it, and you can recognize, wait, I can pick up these pieces and build something far more complex, far more beautiful, beyond what I thought was possible, right? And that process of being destroyed and being reborn, right, is beautiful. It's glorious, right? And it's in our nature. It's what we are, right? Like every single one of us, right? Coming into this reality as a physical being, right? And growing and expanding, right?
Yep.
And it's seeing that and starting to be able to take control of it, recognizing that we are co-creators in this reality. When you start to co-create consciously, there's a lot of talk about manifestation now, right? There's courses you could take on how to manifest, all of these things, right? It's recognizing that we are all manifestors.
Yep.
No matter what. You are doing it either consciously or unconsciously. That's the thing. I created unconsciously. I had a powerful energy and a powerful will, and I unconsciously created this darkness. And now it's understanding I can consciously create. But how do I consciously create?
Yeah.
The conscious creation cannot originate here. It has to originate here from your heart, right? And then through your heart and through your inner wisdom, right? Through the practice, from quieting the noise and tapping into that energetic space, we filter it through the mind, through the brain, right? To start to be able to create the physical world. And it takes action, and that is the process, and that is the dance. And that really, truly, along with a deep, true, genuine practice of gratitude, right? I'm so grateful. I wake up and I open my fridge and I'm great. I remember what it was like when I didn't have that. I don't ever forget. That suffering, right, now allows me to be grateful for the smallest things. Brushing my teeth, sometimes I just stop, feel it. This is beautiful, right? But then as you start to go deeper and deeper inwards through these practices, you start to truly have the mystical experience that begins to rise, right? But that happens by letting go. This destruction of my ego, of everything I was, of my life, was unconsciously teaching me that. How do I fully let go? But what does letting go mean, right? Letting go at the surface layer is letting go of my worries about my job, my relationship, all of these, my taxes, I'm going to pay my bills, right? Important. Can you go below that? And as you start to go below that, there's the unconscious programming, right? Language, one of the first things that you were programmed with. Can you go beyond that? Can you go underneath that? And can you fully be here in this moment and truly take it all in without the constructs of language? What does that mean? Why? Why no language, right? Language serves a purpose, of course, right? What we are truly in is an expression of the sacred. All of it. Everything. And you can start to see that everywhere. People say like God created in the reflection of God. Yes. But so is every other thing in nature. It is all a reflection of God. And what God is the energetic source of it all that has gone by many names. The Tao, Brahman, Allah, cannot be named. Why? It is infinite. It is formless. Within it, it's constantly growing and transforming, just like this physical world is. Right? It's not being of a physical body. It is energy that contains infinite possibilities, and this physical world literally grows out of it. This energetic frequency goes from pure potential, pure energy that is eternal, that has no beginning and end, and out of it comes this physical dimension. It's a reflection of it. It's the same way, and there's clues in nature, right? It's the same way that liquid water can freeze into ice, right? And then it can melt and become a gas again. There's wisdom in nature, in everything. That is what this is. This is a vibrational hardening, a reflection of what God is. We're in it. And when you start to see that and feel that, that's it. That's where you start to see that's what we are. We come out of it, right? And the nature of God is that it is eternal. It is forever continuously growing, expanding, and transforming, right? Just like this physical world is. into the unknown. There's beauty in that. Creating new realities, new possibilities. So our nature is not to be locked into an ideology. This is what I am. This is my name. This is, right? That's not what God is. God is flowing. God is undefinable, right? God can create, and we're co-creating with it. And it's that. And this breaking open first experience started to allow me to fully open deeper into that.
Yeah, it sounds like the amount of pain that you will experience is proportional to your attachment to your ego. The more attached you are,
Yes.
the harder it's going to be for you.
Yes, and that's what the psychedelics ultimately taught me, because when I came out, that became the second part of the journey, right? There's 2 lines in my life. It's going to prison is the first line, right? First, paradigm destruction. I came out and I thought I was this person. And then the second one was powerful, transcendent psychedelic experiences that obliterated even that, right? This new ego structure that evolved, obliterated all of it, but not just the ego, like the whole entire
Identity.
concept of what I thought I knew of what this reality was. Obliterated everything, and allowed me to truly connect and experience what it is behind the veil, right? And that combined with the meditative practices, that was the key, right? Having those experiences, but then having a strong practice that I can come back to, where I can keep that thread, that connection to that space. And then over time, with discipline, starting to access that space with no medicine. Realizing it's here. It's always here.
Yeah, that's ultimately the purpose, I think, of a medicine is to show us that what is real, what's there, and for us to find a way there without the medicine, to how to be in that state. You know, when you were talking about the everything, the possibilities that kind of crystallize themselves in the physical reality, I once had this very visual experience. I wasn't on any psychedelics. It just kind of came to me. And I saw it as a cloud. So or like existence, showed up as this cloud, infinite cloud of possibilities. It wasn't solid. It was just a bunch of possibility space, right? Yeah. And the time, concept of time was present, and it was like a laser scan, like, you know, in a nightclub where they have a fog machine and the laser goes through. It was kind of like that. It was, as the time passes by through the cloud, it was crystallizing it. It was making it real.
Yes, that's beautiful.
You know, and then conscious beings, humans included, we are right on the slice.
Yes, this is it.
Doing the dance. And as you're moving your arm, the trail is left behind. This is what's being manifested in 3D reality. And we are sharing this experience. You see another human on their journey. We're doing the dance and we're looking back, and then this is the trail.
Yes, that is beautiful. That's a beautiful visual. And yes, that resonates. That's what it is, right? And then if you could see that, get out of all of your stories and tune into that story, right? That's a beautiful story. We are all eternal beings that are in that light right now in this moment, in this unique, beautiful moment, right? This challenging moment. There's many layers in this moment, right? This is a challenging reality that we've manifested into. There's many different dimensions that could have come into. We've come into this one at this super fascinating time for this human species, right? Crossing with technology, new realities happening, right? So like from that space, like, okay, how do I want to show up from that place? If I recognize, right, that I am part of this much, much bigger, deeper, ever unfolding mystery, right? That's beautiful. That's blossoming, right? And this is my time here in the dance to create. What am I going to create, right? What will we create while you are here? You wake up in this reality, but we woke up in somebody else's dream, right? Somebody else's ideas of somebody else's ideology, somebody else's religions, the way they connect to it, what they think we should have done. And maybe there's wisdom in that, but also recognize that this is constantly transforming. So we have to awaken here in this moment, right? And start to see with compassion, right? The other beings that are here too, right? When you look in another being's eyes, right? There's something deeper happening, right? Can you get past all the bullshit of you're left, you're right, you're this, you're like all of that, all of these. It's fascinating also that the culture is trying now, maybe it's always been, more than ever, for us to define ourselves, to do the opposite of what I'm telling you. Right? The opposite of like awakening. And awakening requires letting it all go and fully realizing what your true essence is, what this really is. But the culture is trying to put us in boxes. It's trying to get everyone to define themselves. You have to say like, what are you? Which side are you on? You've got to be on this side. That's not us. That is other.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting. Yeah. I agree with you that it's probably a more recent phenomena more so than in the past. And I think potentially the reason, I mean, that's a total, just guess. I don't actually know what the actual reason is. The more we have, ego basically has this desire to control the wiggly world, to put some kind of net around it so you can catch it in a way. And science basically, the science is the practice of concretizing or like solidifying things and being able to predictively like say, this is what's going to happen. It's served us. It's been a very useful practice to predict, all kinds of things in our life. But I think maybe we are reaching it's basically we're at a boundary of usefulness of this practice of controlling reality to that degree where we're losing our true nature. We're like basically becoming this frozen things that can't move anymore just because you have to decide which way. And so now you can't exist anymore.
Yes. But what if that's exactly what is supposed to happen if you zoom out, pull out, right? That the human species has gone through many phases, right? And that before this, for hundreds of years, science was evil and religion was the truth, right? Mm-hmm. And we went through that phase and maybe there was beauty there, but they also went too far, right? And that got corrupted, right? And then it rebounded the other way. And now, right? Science is our truth, right? Religion, spirituality, that's all nonsense and silly, right? And it's flipped. The pendulum is flipped. Science, they both serve in beautiful ways, right? Science is beautiful. It's the unpacking of this reality, starting to understand at a detailed, intricate levels, like what this actually is, starting to learn how to manipulate this reality. And I think that's also part of the process. This is what we're supposed to do, right? To understand how to learn how to create. But the next level is bridging the two, right? Because when you are in the other side, right? When you are physically there, when you fully are immersed and dissolved, you see it is made of the sacred mandalas, right? The sacred geometry, right? But it's mathematical in nature, right? It's deeply mathematical. Looks like technology from hundreds of thousands of years in the future, but it's also ancient, right? So maybe this is the process, right? That we had to go here, see the extremes of this, and now we're going here, see the extremes of this. And now what's starting to happen, right, is science, the institution of it is starting to break down, right? Why? Because it's also gotten corrupted, just like religion did, right? It's fully corrupted now. People have lost their faith in it, but we don't fully throw it away. It's now taking and starting to create consciously. We have superhuman powers now that could have never been fathomed, but we are being led by the least amongst us, right? By humans that are not connected, that humans that are full of greed, humans that are looking for war, humans that are looking for violence, looking to separate, fighting for power. These primal primates, they're still leading us, right? And we don't realize it. All of them, across the board. Not your team as well, right? Not just in this country, in every country, across the board, right? But what also is here right now are beautiful beings, that are starting to awaken, right? That have the intelligence, that have the depth, that have the strength, that have the courage. Right? We have real leaders that are being born. We're trapped in old systems, right? And now it's beautiful. Science and spirituality is starting to come together. You're starting to see it. It's starting to happen in all of these spaces, in the psychedelic space. We're just at the early phases of it. The bridge between the two, consciously starting to create. Just like I told you before, right? We're all manifestors as individuals. As individuals, most people are unconsciously creating disasters because they are not aware. As a collective, we've been doing the same thing. Yep. We are ultimately powerful and we're unconsciously just creating, stuck in these patterns and these spirals of kings, presidents, wars, nonsense, primate monkey shit, right? And we think we're so sophisticated because they're wearing ties and suits, and no, it's nonsense. But it's okay. We had to go through it. We have to feel the pain and suffering of all of that so that we can start to awaken unto the next reality of what this can become, right? This can be the darkest of the dark, but this also has within it the potential to be the most beautiful, right? And I believe that in my essence. Why? Because my reality was that darkness, caught up in other people's programming, other things. And now I feel beauty and I feel light. And whatever's possible to happen within one individual is possible to happen with the collective. And it's starting to happen. And I think this is also what is supposed to happen. We're supposed to get lost. We're supposed to get scared and terrified and feel like we're lose it all. And then awaken. That's the hero's journey. That's the hero's journey, right? And maybe there is deep wisdom in what's happening to us, right? In God. And God knows exactly what he's doing. He's playing this beautiful game, right? In Sanskrit and Hinduism, they call it Leela, right? That there's a playful factor in this, right? And that's what starts to happen in these practices, right? You asked about the laughter. Laughter really starts to happen. I start to find myself in deep just laughter coming out when I see the nature of it, right? When you really see it, you have to laugh. It's like the cosmic giggle, right? Yeah. Because it's all happening the way it's supposed to happen, right? It's unfolding the way it's supposed to unfold.
Okay.
I'm giving a lot. I'm giving you a lot.
Exactly on the same page. Yeah. A question emerges for me to say, is there anything for us to do? It's an unfoldment process. We're experiencing it and witnessing it.
Yeah.
What is it? What job do we here to do?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. That's almost like, what job are we here to do? What's the meaning of life? Right?
Yeah.
And there's many layers to that. There is no one answer, right? For some of us, it's just here to learn, right? To go through that process, and you have to go through the lessons, and the lessons will repeat, right? Mm-hmm. I think right now in this moment is to not get caught in the trap of a victim mentality and of a us versus them, not get caught in the outside noise. And more than ever for human beings, we're facing one of the greatest challenges ever. Before, our evolution was being driven by adapting to the physical environment, not getting killed, not starving to death, not freezing to death, right? Physical adaptation. Now we have, for the first time, the next level is going to be here. We have to evolve here and here, right? Why? Because we all have phones that we're addicted to. Yep. And it's a beautiful, beautiful challenge. It's not a negative thing, right? It's a beautiful challenge for us to understand first and recognize, wait, we're all trapped. This thing is trapping us. This thing is pulling us in. It's telling us what the stories are. It's telling us who to hate, who to be angry about, what's right, what's wrong, right? Can you turn off that noise? It's harder now to meditate, I will argue, than any other time in human history, right? To quiet that noise. So our first step is to start to go in, right? To quiet the noise and listen and connect to your essence. You know what you're supposed to do here. It's finding that purpose, finding that voice inside of you, uncovering your gifts. What is your role here in the dance? You have a role. You are not meant to be insignificant. If you want to choose that role, you can play whatever it is. This is a co-creation. It's a co-collaboration, right? So I think what our purpose is to start to first quiet the noise and go in and start to do the inner work. Can you do the inner work in this darkness, in this chaos? That young man, when he was in prison, right, unconsciously was doing. And I think that's what all of us have to do. Turn off the noise, start to see and recognize, right, that we are all in this. We are one collective. We are not these separate entities. And we have beautiful power. Find out what your role in the dance is. What is your dharma? What are you here to do? It's not going to come from here. It's not going to come from here. It's not going to come following someone else or some other group.
Yeah.
They can help you. There's teachers. There's beautiful, right? There's a beautiful dance outside, right? It's not completely becoming an ascetic, right? There's
the resonance. You might notice the resonance while you're consuming something. But
if you find this inside,
right,
then this outside world starts to open. It starts to open up. It's going to start to open doors for you, but you also have to take action. It requires action in this moment, right? Listening to that voice, connecting to it, and trusting what is in your heart, what you are here to do. You know what you are here to do. You know. Deep down inside, you know if you are on the wrong path. And it's okay if you're on the wrong path. That's okay too. That's part of it. Going down the wrong dead ends, right? Going down roads that you think are supposed to be yours. And guess what? A lot of us are on roads that we didn't even choose. Somebody just put us on it. Walk it. Realize it's not the way. Come back. Find the path. Create the path. And now in this moment, the people that have voices, the people that have power, right? Not the leaders, right? I'm not talking about politicians. Right now, there's a new power emerging through this, through podcasts. There's voices that are emerging, real leaders amongst us, right? You know who they are. There's a lot of charlatans too and fake ones. Feel with your heart, right? And we start to come together and we start to awaken together and we start to create that new reality. And what that is going to be is a mystery. You have to be okay with that, dancing at the edge of that, right? Dancing at the edge of that. Move forward, move into the light, become it. Bring light where there is darkness right now. Find your inner strength. And maybe that's your journey here, just tapping in. And that's okay, right? Wherever you are. But when you find it, help us. Help us. How do you help? Right? Whatever your gift is, share it. Whatever it is. It could be cooking. It could be creating, right? It could be music. It could be art. It could be, right?
Yeah, I guess the key there is to put conscious intent, be very conscious and intentional with everything that you're putting out. That's our job. When I asked the question, what are we here to do? One of the kind of answers that I've had for myself is potentially influence the speed at which we evolve in basically bringing your free will, and the more aware we are, the more free will we have. And I do believe that we get to participate in the unfoldment. It's not just of its own, right? We get to contribute in what the flavor of unfoldment, and maybe what the speed of unfoldment is. Well,
yes, we are co-collaborators in this, right? Mm-hmm. Taking control of the steering wheel, right? Mm-hmm. First you have to do it with yourself. The challenge right now is everybody's trying to control. Everybody thinks they know how it's all supposed to be and how everybody else is supposed to act right now without doing the inner work. You have to do it first internally, and then you can start to help actually creating consciously, right? And that's the beauty of what this reality is. This can be anything. This current manifestation is just one representation. Mm-hmm. And we've come to believe we've lost the ability to tell the difference between the physical laws of this reality, because there are physical laws, right? There's physical laws in this reality, right? And then there's things that we can build. There's that physical layer, and then we have the ability to create on top of it, right? Mm-hmm. But we've started accepting certain things that are broken and corrupted as physical laws, as unchanging. The government, they're all corrupted. We know they're all corrupted. That's the way it is, and it's always going to be like that. They're always going to lie to us, right?
Mm. Is it the
war? All of those things.
we're losing touch with what is true, or what is that process like? The truth, we're further away from the truth in a way.
Yes, we're lost. We're lost in someone else's story. We're lost in the momentum of the past, right?
The sauce.
Yeah, we're lost in the sauce. We think war. I hear so many people say, right, like, you're never going to stop wars.
Yeah,
war is insanity. Insanity. There's no situation, right, in this world right now where I would turn and decide to murder other humans around me because we can't figure it out, right? The people that do that in real life are psychopaths, and they're leading us, but they're also brilliant. They're very intelligent, right? And they're weaving these stories to make us to believe that this is what we're supposed to do, right? Darkness, right? We have to be led by these people that we all know are corrupt, right? So it's taking your sovereignty out of that, right? Not continuing to participate into it and starting to have these conversations, right? Not the conversation of this guy is right and this guy is wrong and this team, and not that. That's not it. The whole thing, we have to reimagine it, right? We have to reimagine it. There are going to be infinite manifestations. Once all of this is wiped out, it will emerge in a new way of governing, new religions, right? And then those will rise and then those will disappear, right? But now we have the ability to start to create it, to recreate it. It doesn't mean we wipe it all out, right? I'm not saying we come and we overthrow that's not the answer either.
Yeah.
There's a nuanced dance that has to happen here, that we can now start to connect. We weren't able to do it before. All evolved in little silos culturally, right? We were trapped on islands or continents, and that's beautiful. That was necessary too, right? That was a necessary stage in the process. In Asia, something was happening. In South America, they were uncovering different gifts and different things, different parts of the human dance, creating different cultures. Now they're all coming together. And this coming together process that's been happening over the past couple hundred years, it's ugly at first, right? Yeah. It's okay. It's clashing. It's clashing ideas, but ultimately it would all come together. Yeah. And it may not be, this civilization may not be the one to make it, right? The whole thing might collapse. That's okay. But that's okay, because we'll be back for it. We'll rise again with the memory of what happened before. And eventually we'll understand that we are meant to come together and create. And that, I know for some people that's so far off and that seems absurd. But when you've gone to other dimensions and you've seen what is possible and you see the bigger picture of the dance that we are doing, you recognize, wait, that's exactly what we're doing. It's exactly what this is. And like you said, you're here to help that process consciously and maybe speed it up.
You know, the vision for the future that I have is similar to how our body consists of cells that all work as one unified organism. The information travels with no frictional borders. Whenever there's a cut in the body, the body sends enough resources, resource allocation and things like that. And I see for us humans, we'll get to if we make it, we'll get to a similar point of creating a conscious superorganism, let's call it a conscious earth, where all humans are like cells playing their own part. They're self-sustaining units that are healthy. And obviously we probably will still have some kind of cancerous cells, but that's also a natural process. For us to get stronger, we always have to have some tension on edges to evolve. And technology, I see playing also a big part in creating that unified earth. The internet becomes like a nervous system through which information travels around humans, and so that's the ultimate future. Next, kind of like a stable state that I see we're heading towards. Do we have to get there through collapsing the society? I would love to not do that.
Of course.
But if that's the only way, that's the only way. We have to go through some kind of change to get to the new configuration. Yeah.
A couple of things that you said.
Mm-hmm.
First, I love what you said about the cells in the body,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I said in the beginning, this is all a reflection of God, of the nature of source, of the nature of that source energy. So there is deep wisdom in nature. If you look at nature, right? The way all of it flows, like you said, the way cells operate in the body, right? If you look at the universe, the way the planets revolve around the sun, right? You look at cells, right? Protons, nucleus, the way it's all reflective. As above, so below, right? You start to see it. But then there's more deeper, nuanced ones that are really simple, right? Just the way we go from spring to fall, right? The leaves bloom, they fall and die. And then another batch comes. It's a continual process, right? So seeing that night and day, tide comes in, tide comes out, right? Breath in, breath out, right? Life, death. It's all reflective. It's all what we are. There's a pattern pulsing here, right?
Yeah.
There's a pattern pulsing here. And in this pattern, yes, this paradigm has come up, and technology is the next level of the game, right? Technology is the next level. We're at a crossroads because that technology gives us superpowers. But if it's used unconsciously, we destroy ourselves. And that's the direction we're going in right now. And that's why I talk so much about disconnecting from these leaders, from these structures that bow down to, right? Like they're kings. It's nonsense, right? They're buffoons. They're unconscious beings, right? That are, all of the power is in their hands, and we continue to allow that to happen. So I don't know if the answer is that the whole thing has to maybe collapse. And I'm not saying, I'm not here to destroy it physically.
Yeah.
I'm here to help people awaken, to start to maybe it blooms out of it. Maybe the next thing blooms out of it.
Yeah.
But the structures are already starting to crumble, right? They started crumbling in our minds, in our cultural acceptance. I don't know how old you are, but I remember 20, 30 years ago, right? When I was younger, the idea of America in the culture was different. There was a much higher respect. We were the good guys, right? Our respect for science and all of those things in the mainstream, right? We had respect for the news. We believed it. We were the good guys in all of the wars, right? The food industry, medicine, all of it, governments, all of that is starting to crumble, right?
Yeah.
And they may still be physically strong, but our belief in them as a collective is starting to crumble. Now, like, nobody believes anything, right?
Right.
They know that, like, why? But there's a balance to that, right? They've also allowed themselves to become corrupted, right? All of these institutions. So the first part is already happening. Our belief in them is starting to crumble, right? But there's also beauty in those systems, right? There's things, there's positive in there, right? There's beautiful things that have come out of them, right? So it's not throwing it all away. It's understanding a way of how we can start to awaken. So how does that happen? We start to bring consciousness to the top. How do we do that? In some places that may require overthrow, right? I don't know how that unfolds, and there's different things happening in the whole world, but we're doing it by having these conversations, by doing the work yourself. That is the most powerful thing you can do. That's the most powerful revolution. You awaken, right? You fully awaken here. Know what we are, what this truly is, what this dance really is, what we're capable of, right? What we are connected to. This is the sacred. This is the sacred. This physical world, all of it. This is the sacred. The sacred is being run by demons. How do we take control of it, right?
Yeah. So I like the idea of creating alternatives.
Yes.
Yes, maybe in certain situations, that direct confrontation is inevitable, but ideally we minimize that to as low as possible while creating an alternative, so people could just choose something else. And
that's happening. That's what I'm saying. So the first step is we're losing the confidence in those systems, in those broken. We're starting to see them for what they are, right? And they're being exposed. So now, as you build these alternatives, people are starting to come to, right? People are starting to walk, and that's it. We're walking away, right? But with intelligence, to be careful. As this new thing starts to rise up, those same elements of the ego, of being power hungry, right, of control, of money will start to seep in. But hopefully we're moving into the next level with a higher level of awareness and consciousness, right? Learning the lessons of the past, right? And moving and becoming something beyond what it's possible of imagining, right?
Really. I'd love to hear your take on the whole AI development and where it's at in a consciousness AI. What have you spent some time thinking about that?
A lot of time. I love that space, and I'm deep in it right now. There's so much. There's so many different areas and ways in which it's growing, right? And there's a lot, I'm sure, that we don't even know about what's happening, right? It's happening so fast. I think this is the next level, right? I think this is us moving literally into a new dimension. We're already in another dimension, right? We are already in another dimension. It's already entered into our mind, right? Like it's controlling all of our minds, right?
Yes.
It already is in. It is already in. So it's recognizing and starting to use it consciously, right? And see, I believe where it's going to take us is not possible for us right now to even imagine. Just like 100 years ago, there's no way they could have imagined any of this. Talking into a microphone, right? Video recording, crystal clear, right? Like all of this is all magic. It's all magic. Seeing that every single development is magic, right? Would be magic. So there is more magic to come, and the next layer of magic is going to be beyond our comprehension, and that is what AI is. AI is going to introduce something that is beyond our ability to even imagine, right? And I think with every new technology, right, there's always been resistance and fear, right? And of course we have to move with caution because we're moving into a much, much greater level of power than we've ever had, right? We're starting to work with higher levels of power, but having conscious beings leading that is the most important thing. That's how it unfolds and takes us and allows us to become what we are meant to become. But if we continue to allow it to be controlled by, we're just giving more power, right, to these broken institutions that are going to abuse it and are going to take us into darkness, right? So I love being on the edge of the unknown, right? And I think this is it. I think this is the integration, right, of what this human species is meant to ultimately become, right? I think we're meant to fully merge into matter, right? And fully be able to start to create. When you're in these altered space, I've spent a lot of time the past 20 years, like deep, working with like DMT and Bufo and very deep, spending a lot of time in these alternate dimensions. And these alternate dimensions are dimensions that are closer to source. And in these dimensions, like I said, they're fractal in nature, they're technological, right? But it's all moving and flowing, and we're part of it. We're connected, and we're creating in those dimensions, right? You're able to create. You're just flowing, right? And I think that's ultimately what this is going to become. This dimension is ultimately going to become that dimension. This is a distilled layer of that dimension. AI is the next level that's bringing us closer into that. And what does that do? That brings us closer to source, to God. We get closer, right? Closer and closer and closer and closer and closer until we all fully awaken, fully come back into the one, right? And then we do it all over again. Let's do it all over, and let's make it crazier. Let's make it more complex. Let's make it more challenging. Let's make it scarier. Let's make it more beautiful, deeper and deeper and deeper.
I've spent also a lot of time thinking about those things. So do you then think there will come a time where us conscious beings will leave the three dimension and depart? Basically, it's a departure act.
I think it's a transition.
Okay.
And it's the natural transition. This is just how I experience it. This is just one dimension of that energy being distilled into this physical form, right? Vibrating into this physical frequency, right? And when you die, death is just another transition back into that energetic state. And we keep coming back into these dimensions, right? And these dimensions eventually we start to fully awaken. So yes, I think I don't know, right?
Of course.
It's the mystery. It's the great mystery. This is me just, right?
Yeah.
Like seeing, right? Seeing what can ultimately become, is that I believe that when it all comes together, like you said, right? I think something euphoric, orgasmic for the whole entire species, right? It all comes together. It realizes what it is again. It awakens. It remembers it's all God, right? Creating all of this. And then it goes into the next level. And yes, we transcend into another dimension. And then the dance starts all over again, but at a deeper layer, more beautiful, complex layer. And it's a continual process of expanding outwards, right? Like the Big Bang started, right, from a single point, and it's expanding outwards, and we're continuing that process, right? And we're continuing that with technology. Technology is just the natural, it's the next layer of it, right? As it gets more complex, as it starts to open up. And I think it fully opens up to a point where it fully awakens, and then it goes again, and it goes deeper, and it goes more complex. And we're back here again, and we're all here. We've been doing this dance forever. We've been doing this dance forever, right here, remembering, forgetting, getting lost in it, right? Getting lost in it, and then remembering, and starting to wake up again. And let's create something beautiful again, out of the darkness.
Terence McKenna is one of my favorite humans ever lived, I guess. I've listened to a lot of his lectures and admire his level of intellect, but also connection to the source, to the intelligence. And what you were just describing, the process of us transition into another dimension. He has this whole lecture around, he calls it a process of conquesting dimensions. He calls it conquest of dimensionality. That's the name of I believe that's the name of the lecture, Conquest of Dimensionality. And he breaks it down, giving an example of, since the beginning of a living organism, like the most primitive forms of life were some kind of like cell sitting on the rock somewhere in the ocean and the border of ocean and the water. Didn't have any capability of navigating 3D in any way. It didn't have any legs, or it was just so primitive, the spark of life. And as the life evolved, it would start to maybe combine with other cells and becoming more complex. It would start to have locomotion parts, little wiggles. It would start to be very crudely able to navigate 3D and not really in any like conscious way of any kind. And as millions of years past that, we have animals that are so precise at like grabbing and climbing and flying. Animals argue like really mastered the 3D dimension. They're masters at that. And then now humans can build cathedrals, can send satellites to space, and all of this. The precision with us like controlling the physical, or like being able to navigate 3D reality is at a completely different scale now. And as humans were in the process of basically navigating the 3D in a more sophisticated way, we started to coexist or occupy other dimension in which language and cultures and ideas exist. And so and over time, if we look at history, we've been spending more and more time in dimensions. As we are solidifying this safety net of the 3D, the physical reality, we have society systems and all of that. So we don't have to worry about a predator coming and eating us. We have systems in place so that we can spend more time in those other dimensions, right? So I do see also technology playing a big part of us. It's maybe like it's not like we're all going into the digital dimension. We're like uploading our minds. The digital dimension is basically, it's kind of like a container or a maybe like a playground or I don't fully understand what is the actual relationship of, let's say, virtual reality with the source, or like where our souls go. might be some kind of relationship there. It's definitely not the same thing. It's not like, oh, it's not a physical thing that must be the same thing. I don't think it's the same thing. But it's interesting that it is another non-physical dimension that we've been navigating and getting used to.
I love that. The conquest of dimensionality. I love that. So we originated as organisms in the water, right? That's how we evolved. And going outside of the water meant death, right? The first, whatever that was, right? Species, animal, that fish that came out of the water and went to land, transcended their reality, right?
That's right.
And it was a miracle. History is filled with miracles, right? It was an entire paradigm shift that couldn't have been comprehended. And for all of those animals in the water, right? If we were back there, we could not have imagined what exists outside. We're like, it's beyond our even comprehension, and what can grow, what can start to grow, right? The first thing that crawled on land, right? And then as primates were in the trees, right? They came down from the trees and they stood upright and they started talking. That is another miracle. That is a paradigm shift. It's a new reality, right? And like you said, we keep going deeper, and we're going deeper into it with AI. So the next level, just like was incomprehensible for all of the levels before us, is incomprehensible. We can talk about it. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to guess, right? It could be this, it could be that. But you know what I love? I love that what it's really going to be is going to be beyond our possibility of understanding with this current hardware, right? It's going to be a whole new paradigm shift, right? And it's going to be a much, much deeper layer. But I believe that this process is the spiritual process. This is how God is unfolding it. This is how the sacred, the source, that thing, that deep, it has deep wisdom in the unfolding. And one of the patterns for me that has continuously been happening in all of I've been in a beautiful container now that I told you a little bit about, is allowing me to work much, much deeper with DMT intimately and regularly. And what's been happening since my first experience with it 20 years ago is I'll try to put into words this experience that's impossible to put into words, right? Is that as you start to dissolve, it feels like pieces of me are coming off, and the pieces are pieces of my identity, my name, where I went to school, my parents, and it all disappears, and it can be terrifying, right? But once it's all gone, you are still there. Your essence is still there. And what it's taught me, right, is what ayahuasca taught. I went to Peru, and the one trip kind of solidified all of it. It made me feel that pieces going away, and it's like they're gone. They go into the black, right? They go into the dark. They're gone, right? And she appeared in front of me, and she sat in front of me, and I was panicking, right? I was panicking. It's all gone. I'm dying. It's the death process. You die. That's what dying is, losing it all, right? And she appeared in front of me, and she sat, and she said, very calm, "This is what your practice is for. Breathe. Breathe. Follow me." And she started breathing. She said, "Follow me." And she started showing me the way to breathe. And I started centering myself. And we're still in this beautiful fractal mandala, right? We're inside of it doing this. And she said, "Now, from the space, create yourself again." So pulling from this energetic space, and I created a new being. And it was just like this one. Not like this one, but I felt it as real as this one. It was something totally beautiful in this fractal space. And then she said, "Die." What? Die. Again, the death. No. Come back. Breathe with me again. Let's do it again. Do it again. Build it again. We did it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over. Until the end, I reached a point where I became the whole entire thing. I became the whole entire universe. I was able to manifest it, to become the whole thing as one. It was the most powerful thing. And I was like, I remember I told her, I said, watch this. Just die. Again, boom, I become a universe. I have planets. I have everything inside of me, all of it, beings rising. The whole thing. I am the whole thing. Watch this. Now a new one. Over and over, over and over. Breath in, breath out, fully dissolve. And it became beautiful. And it became this process of like, wow, look, this is what we are all actually doing. Now we are inside of it. This is what we're meant to do here. That is a reflection of this, right? Recognize that this life is an opportunity to awaken here, to create. We're creating this. You are creating this character. You are creating this reality. It's okay. We're doing it forever. Don't be scared. This is what we've been doing, right?
And the creation, from what I'm also hearing, it happens on every different level. There, you were universe, and here is just a local creation.
It started as a single being, and then it started expanding and expanding and expanding until it became the whole entire thing, the process. This was a 9-hour insane ordeal with a tribe of natives deep in Peru. And it was that process over and over and over. And I realized this is a reflection of that. This is what's happening. And as it grew into a much bigger being, right? If you want to say the whole universe, it's impossible to put into words what it felt like. Yeah. But it was much more complex. It was futuristic. It was so intricate. The same way the direction that technology is taking us, AI is taking us, right? So it's that. That is what I believe the pulsing of reality is, of life is. And this is a microcosm reflection of the macro of what the source is doing. We're in it. We're in the dance.
Wow. Yeah. What Terence McKenna also mentions that the universe, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but something about the universe is this novelty conserving. It basically preserves novelty and it's expanding it. Like everything that's been created in the past, that all of those new things are still here, and it's continuing to expand into the novelty space. Like there's more new things, and that's why technology is in the forefront of that movement. Yeah.
Yes. I love Terence, by the way. Terence was one of my first teachers when I was a young man. I spent hundreds of hours listening to him. Yes. So I love Terence. And yes, I love this idea of like, yes, this is what it is. Why are we continuously doing this? Because this is all there is to do. And why wouldn't we do this? If we were one all-powerful supreme being, why wouldn't we make it continue to explore our capabilities, what we can create, how much more complex and beautiful it can be? And we are that. We are it. This is one of the creations of the most beautiful ones, of the most complex ones. Us, this being, this physical body is that, right? And this is just one stage. We're going to become beings that are beyond our comprehensions right now. This is not the final stage, right? Yeah. It's recognizing we're still in an early stage of what it can become, what we can become.
Is there a version of the future that is maybe not beyond the horizon, something that you see for yourself and it works as an attractor, like a desirable version that you would want to embody and live in? Like, what would that look like?
It's my life right now. It's my life right now. I'm doing it. I'm in it right now. This is it. This is it. And what I've realized is like, visualization is an important part of it, right? Visualizing what do I want to create, right? Like truly understanding how to do that. That's another skill, right? To truly visualize it, see it, and create it, right? Yep. Some people naturally can do it, right? They're creators in many, many different ways, whether it's music, architecture, right? Science, like all of that, right? But I've also realized that the path reveals itself as you do it. So we're on the edge right now. And now it's happening faster and faster and faster, right? 5 years ago may not seem like a long time ago, but that was already a different dimension. Everything that we already have, it's completely different, right? So the unfolding is happening faster. So there's no ground to stand on, right? The transformation is happening faster. Things are collapsing. Things are changing faster and faster and faster. So in this space, this is why more now than ever, I need to find this inner space of like, There's no ground to stand on the outside, but on the inside, I'm centered. I am anchored so that as it all falls apart and new opportunities start to arise, because that's what's happening too, as things fall apart, opens new doors, new possibilities that didn't exist before, and we create them. And that's what we're doing, right? And that's what's happening now in my personal life. But that's also what I see happening for others around me. We're all starting to do it. We're doing it. The practice is it. That is it. The practice will guide us through and will take us there, right? To where we are meant to go. So I don't know what tomorrow brings, because I think that's where we are. No one can know. But for me, this is I love this. I love this, like, okay, it's all falling apart, but let's figure it out. This is a beautiful part of it. I know for a lot of people, it's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
My nature, my path has
you're trained or built for that.
It made me for this. It made me for this, right?
Right.
And I'm realizing that this is what my purpose has been for the people around me, right? I'm not trying to transform the whole world. I mean, I would love to, but that's my purpose is can I be light to the people around me? That's the real magic. It's beautiful to have like these goals of like transforming and changing systems. And for some of us, that's our path. That's our dharma. If that's your gift and that's what you have. But for most of us, it's tending to your garden, your family, your friends, the people right in front of you in your circle. Be the light for them. Give them love, right? Apply love. Love. We talked about all these cool concepts, right? Technology, AI, right? Like all these things, right? Psychedelics, all these things that are sexy to talk about.
Yeah.
But underneath it all, right? The energetic frequency that ties it all together, that creates all of this, is love. That is the secret. Apply love everywhere. Apply love everywhere. When you are stuck and you don't know what to do, right? You're being challenged. Apply love. Can you apply love in that situation? And that's part of the awakening process. And that's the answer. That is the answer. That will get us to where we're going, because I think love is the closest thing to source, because we've talked about this model, right? Where we're all part of source coming out of source, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what love really is when two people fall, right? We're going off on a different tangent now, right?
Right, yeah.
But I think it's applicable,
Related,
right?
Yeah.
When someone falls in love with another human being, a lot of times we look at them and from the outside, like, that doesn't make sense. Why is she with him? He's this or she's that, or like, he's too good for her. She's all of those like things on the surface level.
Yeah.
And you can't understand why this person has become like connected, like is under the spell of this other person. Because we are all the sacred and we've forgotten. So within us is that sacred. When you fall in love with another person, you transcend all of the ego structures, all of the character structures, and your light awakens and connects to their light. Mm-hmm. That's what it is, right? That's why when two people are in love, right, they're in their own dimension. Yeah. And that's also why we get addicted to that person, right? Because that person awakens the light inside of us, and that becomes our way, that's our drug, right? Mm. And we see the light in them. We don't see any of the surface level, any of the stuff that other people see, right? Yeah. But as you go deeper into this practice, these practices, you start to awaken love inside of you, and you no longer need it from another person. It's beautiful when you tap into it with another person, right? But when you start to awaken it within yourself, that is the superpower. I'm not desperately needing to try to get it from another human or from a relationship or from something on the outside. It truly awakens. And when it awakens in you, you can start to see it everywhere, in every other being, right? And you can start to experience love everywhere with strangers. Just by looking in their eyes and connecting, you see the light and you feel it. It awakens your light, right? And that is what will take us to the next level. And if you can do that, but also master technology and AI, then we become gods. Right? Yeah. We become this one superhuman organism connected through love.
Beautiful, man. Yeah. I'm very much on the same page with everything that you mentioned about that, the actionable thing around the love, what advice would you give to someone to find more love within themselves? What practice would you recommend?
Yeah. So all of these things that I've been talking about that happen through these practices, I haven't been trying to get to them. The love just started opening. You start to open and you start to see the nature of reality. You start to dissolve the boundaries between you and the other person. That's why I talk about that, why it's so important, right? When you stop defining yourself as this other thing, you start to feel it and see it everywhere. You see it in nature. You see it in other beings. So it's sitting with yourself in stillness. And there's many practices that can help get us there, right? Breathwork, pranayama, psychedelics, all these different tools that we have to help us get to this place of stillness in this moment where we're fully in it and we can see the whole thing, everything that we've talked about, right? All the different layers of it from the start, the source, all the different dimensions down to this dimension. And you can see that it's all connected as one thing and one happening, right? That takes time. For a lot of us, we're stuck. My job, my relationship, right? We're stuck there. We start by connecting to the breath. There's many, many tools. Dance can take you there. Training for some of us, right? Runner's high is a way that you're starting to like quiet the noise and get into it, right? Yeah. Making love is another way that you can start to act. There's so many different ways. For me, it's the breath. That was the tool that was given to me or was my path, right? Because I had nothing else. But I think the breath is important for us now, right? Because it's something we all have and it is the most effective frequency to counterbalance the frequency of being trapped in your phone. When you can quiet the noise, like this feels gross, right? When you really get trapped in it and you're just scrolling aimlessly, it's a gross vibrational frequency, right? The breath and these practices give us access to the opposite, to light, to that other feeling, to that remembering. And so my advice for everyone is to find your tool, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. And, I'm a martial artist, so discipline is a word that resonates deeply with me, but discipline doesn't resonate for a lot of people. Make it a ritual then. Make it your sacred ritual, right? Or discipline, right? However you connect to it. Start to connect to it regularly, right? Even if it's 5 minutes a day. If it's through prayer, it can be through prayer. If it's through asana, yoga asana, it could be through asana. If it's meditation, breath, start to quiet the noise and feel. And the love will start to happen, right? Start to breathe into love, right? Start to feel it. It'll start to unfold. And everybody's journey is different. Everybody's in a different place, right? So there's different tools at different stages of the game, right? For some people, feeling love from within for themselves is going to be extremely challenging, but it's there. I promise you it's there underneath all the layers.
Wow, beautiful, man. Yeah, I think this is a great way to kind of wrap up the conversation. So the last maybe few moments, if you have any, you've shared a lot, and that could be the message that you are here to bring. If you have any last notes, maybe how can people find you? Point them to any maybe events that you coming up, or how they can get in touch with you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first, I'm honored to be in a position where I'm able to share these practices now. I'm so grateful. That's why I wake up also and I'm in a whole new dimension. I'm in a different dimension. I've been trapped in other dimensions where I had to work for people or, all different things. I'm in a reality now where I get to share this, and this is my purpose. This is my path. This is what I wake up every day and I do. Who can I help and how can I help? And so I work with people privately, one-on-one. I teach classes regularly. I teach workshops. I'm starting to travel to different cities. I'm based out of Austin and Miami right now. My Instagram, which is the easiest way to kind of follow and kind of connect with me, is O2Flow, the letter O, the number 2, and then FLO. And there's many, many different workshops coming up. I have a big event coming up at the Faena here in Miami. Okay. Miami, we're going to have a huge, massive, powerful breathwork awakening experience. If you're here, come for that.
When is it?
This is going to be September 28th at the Faena. Yeah, it's part of a much bigger wellness weekend that they're hosting. There's a lot of incredible biohackers coming, wellness talks and experiences. I'm going to be leading an event Saturday night at the Forum, which is a beautiful space. I'm so grateful for it. Come experience, right? Come feel it. All these things we're talking about are good to talk about conceptually, but it's about the experience. Come experience, right? I work with people virtually and in person, right? So if you feel called, please reach out, right? And I appreciate you so much for this opportunity. I loved this conversation. Loved it.
Yeah, it was amazing.
This was great. This was great.
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much.
Same, brother. Yeah, I mean, this is why those are the moments that give me the confirmation that what I'm doing is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. It gives so much meaning and energy to life. So yeah, thank you for that as well. Yeah, and if you're still here listening, thank you for being with us as well. I'm sure you also had a lot to learn and enjoy the conversation. And I'll hear you on the next one, or I'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.